Hi, in this video I will talk about basic tools to have like a sort of starting kit for your home mechanics, for maintaining your bicycle, fixing it and so on. First I will start with a disclaimer. Whenever I see a set of tools made by any manufacturer, like a home mechanic starter kit or whatever they put, the marketing team puts the names it, those tools, because bicycles nowadays have so many different standards, types of bottom brackets and whatnot, you are very likely to get such a set and have half the tools not at all useful for your bicycle and still be lacking some tools for your own bicycle to do some basic maintenance. And with that in mind, I will try to explain what each tool is used for and to present tools in some sort of order of how frequently I use them for most bicycles that come to my shop. And again with a disclaimer, so the idea is to just have this video as a guide and do look at your bicycle, do look at the parts you have there and bolts and everything and see what works for you best. That's my opinion and advice if I give myself the liberty to give any advice. So with that in mind, let us begin. These are hex or Allen keys. This is the set that I most often use: 3mm, 4mm, 5 and 6. Because if you buy these separately, they will not cost so little. For this case, I think it's a good idea to buy a set. And this came in a set that was made by Unior, where you get from 10mm to the smallest one of 2mm or even less. So this is a good idea to make an exception and buy a whole set. It's not very expensive. I think it's about $10 or 10 euros or something. It's decent quality, not as good as they used to make tools. I make a special video on that, but for what you can get today for any reasonable amount of money, it's top class. It works well daily. I use this very often, and I like this fact that it's a ball end wrench and I can use it to screw things in at an angle, which is very convenient. And I use this part when I need leverage. While I'm at it, when you watch bicycle shops videos and everything, you often see them use things like this, and they look like a good idea. This one has the 4 that I use most often, 4, 5 and 6 hex or Allen keys. However, I would not advise you to buy this. I would advise you to get this for probably similar price for use at home, especially since you cannot do all the tasks with this tool. Sometimes you can only come and reach the bolt with using tools like this, so you will definitely most probably need a set like this. This is just an extra. It is convenient for bicycle shops that have lots of different tools, so it's not a problem for them. But if you're starting at home, I think this is not a good idea to buy, even though it looks like it's made for bicycle and all the mechanics and shops have it somewhere shown, and so this is not first choice. When we talk about general tools, a flat blade screwdriver 6mm is often handy to have at a shop or at your whatever you're working. It's not originally designed to you work with any bicycle bolts. Many modern bicycles, most don't have any bolts that are screwed in or out with this one, but it can be used to pry things out, to pull things apart, and for other uses, so it's a good idea to have one of these. Same goes for a moderate sized hammer. You often can and will use it in a shop, but this would not be on my high priority list for bicycles, especially. This is generally a good idea to have always at home in your shop. A must-have tool, in my opinion, and it fixes all the warranty claims. Sorry, joking. When we are talking about that, another thing that is general, not specifically to bicycles, is some sort of pliers. I don't use these very often. These are what you will most often see, and if this is what you have, it will give you a good use. This is a 30 or 40 years old Russian model that still holds up. However, what I do more often use is this set of pliers that are thin. Again, often not for things that are used for bicycles specifically, but when I want to, how do you say that, make a hack or something, it's handy. And also a moderate sized, like this design. This one is made by Baco company, model 2971G/250. In my opinion, best bang for the buck. Works like a charm, and it helps you hold things in place of various sizes. So I would advise having these tools at your home if you ever do any kind of mechanics or any repairs. But these are not specifically for bicycles. However, I very often use these tools. So this is based on my experience and knowledge, what I'm showing. Moving on. General tools, you need some sort of a file very often, and this one has a flat side and a curved side, so if you need to buy only one, this will do. Roughly this size, you don't need anything longer than this, greater, and anything smaller you might find it lacking. So if you're buying only one, this is a good fit. This is about 30 centimeters and it works. It's a no-name Chinese one that works okay. I have no idea what brand it is. Another thing that I often use is this set of bits. It's made by Metabo. This is the model number. It's a very high quality and it can replace all sorts of screwdrivers and stuff, as you can see. But for home mechanic starting, it can be a bit expensive and you need a high quality tool to hold these bits in place. So it would not be on my first to buy list, but I'm mentioning it because I'm using it very often. I'll put it here. Screwdrivers, you definitely need Phillips or GIS, better to say it, screwdrivers. I have a separate video on that. I will make sure it pops up somewhere. This is the most often used Phillips 2. Phillips 1 can be handy, but if you're starting and can only afford one, get a high quality Phillips 2 for start. This one is made by the German company, I think Vera. 3350 model. It's stainless steel. They also have one with hardened steel that is not stainless. I chose this because it was only available in my country and a friend of mine has a boat, so stainless bolts and nuts and things are better to work with them using tools made of stainless steel to prevent them from rusting the bolts. So it's a very good option, but if you're working on bicycles, they have green handle colored hardened steel, carbon steel, not stainless one, and that's also a good option. I think they're also a bit cheaper, but don't take my word for it. Now let's move on. We should put this here. Another thing that I often use is a cassette tool, and this is the one I often go for. This one is made by Unior, model 1670.5/4. It's deep enough, so it allows you to unscrew the cassette lock rings that are used for this standard. So that's why it's a good design of a tool, and you can put it in a thing like this to work it. And if you're getting it, you can get something like this, but you do not have to. So this is not necessary. What is very handy and often necessary that I often use is this. It's an adjustable wrench and you can have it work with this. So you don't care if it's metric or imperial tool, you can use it with this. This one is made by Baco, model 9033. It is about 20 centimeter length. I'm not sure if it's marked someplace. 10 inches. Okay, give me the metric system or give me that. That's about 25 centimeters. Okay, so this is high quality, in my opinion, best bang for the buck. It's worth paying more for it compared to some cheaper alternatives, and it's nicely curved, so you can reach some places that are a bit tight, but it's still not too small. It gives you enough leverage. So this is a general tool that I often use. For modern bicycles, you may not be needing this tool or the hammer or this one, but use your own judgment. I use these tools very often. Moving on. Cone wrenches. You need generally for most Shimano cup and cone hubs a 17mm cone wrench, and when you're getting it, make sure you have two, because sometimes you need to use two. And this is model 1617/2DP. It's not very visible. Very high quality cone wrench is probably the best available in the market today. I get 10% of everyone sold, joking. And another thing that you need for front hubs is 15mm cone wrench. Everything else is the same model, the same manufacturer. This is the 15mm size. These are the wrenches that I use most often. You get two if you wish to service Shimano front hubs. The other ones get used very occasionally for some exotic models. Another thing that I really love, this is a brilliant tool if you wish to do your own cables and housings and whatnot, is this tool. I think I have a video on it. I'll make sure it pops up someplace. It's made by Jaguar. The model and the exact model and the link to buy it is in that video that I will link. This is a very good tool that allows you to cut both cables and housings without squashing them, makes nice clean cuts. This has lasted me for about a decade or something. It's brilliant, high quality tool, and I would not recommend using anything else. There are special housing cutters and cable cutters, but for home use, this will do the job. I always use this tool. It's brilliant. Let's put it here. Now let's talk about wrenches. You often need wrenches for wrenching. This is a set that I bought from a local supermarket, Mr. Bricolage. I think it's French. But they have this set that had a nice finish, and one end was like an O wrench and the other one was like an open wrench. And these are surprisingly good, long lasting, and I'm very happy with these tools. And they were quite affordable. I don't remember the exact price, but they were a lot cheaper than most other that I found of some brands. The ones that I use very often is the 17mm for fixing, for servicing hubs, cup and cone hubs. Then 15mm for removing wheels that are screwed on, the old standard on bicycles. 8mm is used a lot for fixing different stuff to bicycles, for not mud guards or brackets or anything else. This one is used often, and number 10mm also for that use. 12, 13 and 14, some wheels, some old bicycle front wheels use 14mm, and these 12 and 13 for some saddles or handlebars for older style bicycles, Quill stems and so on. These are often used, and that's about it. When it comes to wrenches, it is probably cheaper to buy them in a set than to buy them separately, because you get just a few more sizes, and why not? For some of these wrenches, it's a good idea to have two. For example, 17mm wrenches for servicing cup and cone hubs. I don't like using these when I don't absolutely have to, because they are thin and they get worn out after a while. So whenever I can use the big ones, I use the big ones, and 17mm and 15mm for the front, get two. It's a good idea. This tool, like cutters, this is very cheap, very low quality, and it has served me okay. I bought this in a supermarket, Vomax, and they just don't want to die, so I can buy a higher quality ones, and they're still working. If I went shopping today, I would give more money for a higher quality, but they are okay, and you need a good set of cutters. One of the main reasons why I don't buy a higher quality one is because I got a lot better model, but this is not something that I would recommend for home mechanic use. It's made by Baco 1520G model, and I use this for various types of cutting and everything, but it's quite expensive, and I think it's a better idea to buy something like this by Baco for home use. So get a good quality tool like this type, not as I bought. For tires and valves, when you have a tire leaking at the core, you need to remove the core and put in a new one, or tighten just the old core on the brand new tube. Sometimes cores are not too tight, and this is a tool that works with Presta cores and with Schrader or automobile valve cores. This one is made by Unior model. Here you can see it in the camera. It's brilliant, it's great investment, and if you have a leaking tire or something, when you need to buy a tool for that, I suggest you buy this one. And it's not necessary. Most tubes are okay, but I always tighten cores when I put new tubes, just in case sometimes they're loose off the factory. So it's a good idea to have, not a necessity for home mechanics for starting, but a thing to have in mind. These are the tools for bottom brackets. This is for older style Shimano monoblock bottom brackets. If you have a bottom bracket like that, you need a tool like this. And this is the model. Let's see if we can catch it on camera. This is made by Shimano. It's relatively high quality, and it's lasted me for a very long time. This one works with 32 millimeters wrench, or you can use the adjustable wrench that I had just shown. So that's one. And if you have a more modern Holotech bottom brackets and so on that are threaded, these are the tools made by Unior. They hold up pretty well. I have a video on these as well. You can look it up on my channel. Use the search option. These are the models. This is for older, and this is for the more modern style of the same threads, everything, just they decided to make this smaller for some reason. And these are made by Unior. They are aluminum, very light, and seem to hold up surprisingly well in spite of being made of aluminum. I had my doubts, but they're good, and they can fit a tool. And if you get this model, you will need to get a bar like this, and I suggest you get at least like a breaker bar. This is 1/2 inch standard, because if you put a lot of torque and use that wrench that is ratcheting, you can damage the ratchet mechanism. So if you're only buying one tool and don't have enough money to spare, get this one and be done with it. You can use it. It will take you more time than using a ratchet mechanism, but if you have only money for only one tool, then get this one, and it works like a charm. I'm putting it here. Now let's move on. If you have older style bottom brackets that are square taper, you will need a crank puller when you want to replace or service your bottom bracket. This one is made by Unior. Here is the model. This tool is very durable. It works very well. It works for Octalink and for square taper without adding any gadgets or anything. By the design of the tool, they have this tip designed like this, so it has the wider here part to work with the Octalink, and this one for square taper. So if you have a tool like that, you will need it, and this works with a 17 millimeter wrench. If you get some other tool, make sure that you have a wrench to operate it with. That's for the bottom brackets, the most commonly used ones. And now let's see. This is a set of ratchets that I bought, made by KS Tools. It says 917.0779. This is the cheapest that's any good. There are a lot more expensive sets of these ratchets, but this set comes with anything that you might need on a bicycle and more. And it even has these things that you can use to put some leverage. It's brilliant. The ratcheting mechanism is of surprisingly high quality, and it costs about $100, not more. And you have the bigger ones, for example, that Shimano bottom bracket tool that I showed. I often use it with this when I want to work very quickly. This is a 32 millimeter. So most of these additions are not made to very high tolerance, very strict tolerance. So I almost never use this. I use that set of bits that I had shown previously, but these basic ones are very good, very durable. I painted this, color coded it, so disregard it. They all come like shiny. But the set of these, with all these wrenches, you can use it to fix your car, to replace spark plugs and everything. It's a good tool. I like this set, and if you can afford, it's a good thing to have at home when you're fixing anything. A set of ratchets, it makes a lot of jobs easier. In a separate video, I have already shown the set of tools for wheel building, so I won't be going into that. You can look up that video on my channel. You have to do a lot of Googling, a lot of research, but I think it's a good idea to help yourself and get all the information and then see what's good for you. I don't want to tell anyone you should get this, you should get this. I was considering even making like a sort of my starting kit of tools of various manufacturers and putting links where to find it. And when I find the time, maybe I will do that, but I think it's probably best for everyone to see on their bicycle and get the tools for their bicycle. I have hundreds of tools, and I've just here shown the ones that I use most often. So it's the most as objective as I can get. I fix all sorts of bicycles, new and old style, and these are the tools that I use, I could say, daily, while the other tools are a bit more exotic. Now, having said that, let's move on to the daily used tools. You need some sort of wrench to hold the cassettes when you're unscrewing cassettes. So I combine this with this model made by Unior. This is 1660/2. I'm not sure if it's still being sold, but I had to fix this one because it was always breaking apart. I put this like a quick link, and now it stays in place and doesn't break off. So with a bit of adjustment, it works like a charm with all sorts of cassettes from 12 speeds to single speed if you need to hold it in place for whatever reason. 6 speeds, sorry. 5 and 6 speeds. For single speeds, it's not necessary. And let's move on. If I've missed something, trying to see which tools I use daily, regularly, very often. Okay, I could say a nice cutting tool. This is like a razor, yes, so you can replace these ones, put new ones in, and this holds it in place, and it has a mechanism to lock the blade in place when you need to apply a lot of force. So it's a good tool, it's a good design, very cheap, flimsy, relatively low quality, but it works surprisingly well. I bought it at the supermarket, local, like I'm not sure what the equivalent is in other countries, but it does the job. For the pedals, this is a pedal wrench, but you generally don't need a specialized pedal wrench. You can work with this or 6mm Allen, depending on which kind of pedals you have. So for home use, it's not really necessary. It's nice to have, but I'm not sure that you really need it, so I'll put it back. This, however, is used for some bottom brackets and for some discs, and those that you cannot access with this tool. So it's made by Unior. This is the model 1609/2BI, and if you need to get only one of these tools, I suggest you forget about this one and get this, because this lets you access even brake discs, which this does not access because it's not deep enough. That's a downside of this design, unfortunately. So this is the one to have, but this is not working. I need to grind down this, never get to it. It's too large, it doesn't fit. Poor manufacturing tolerance. So I bought a separate one by Shimano. It's plastic, but if you get a tool like this with a bit of filing, you can get it to work. This is the model that says. Placing it here. So this with a bit of machining, or if you're lucky you get a better machine part originally, and this in case it doesn't work. For some old style Quill stems, which I consider inherently unsafe, I've made comments on that in some videos. I think it's mentioned in the video about using vintage parts, using modern parts on vintage bicycles, and I have an article on that, unsafe bicycle industry standards or patents. You can look it up on my website, bike.bikegremlin.com. But this is also a tool that's used to adjust preload of headset bearings for that Quill stem headset standards. And this is like a universal, low quality, very cheap, but works surprisingly well. Not that I use a lot of force with it. I usually use this one when I need to use a lot of force to unscrew something stuck. But it comes with 36/40 millimeters, like combined, and the other end has 30/32 millimeters, like combined. I would be delighted to buy a higher quality. I think that Park Tool makes this in a bit of higher quality, but this refuses to die. It's got not the perfect tolerance, but good enough. I don't damage any parts or anything. But if I went to buy one today, if I could find Park Tools, I would probably get that one. I have more than a few tools that I bought for low cost, and I somehow consider it like wasteful to just throw them away and buy higher quality tools. For those that I use very often daily, I do that. But for those that I use only occasionally, it somehow feels unjustified. But if I can give any advice now in hindsight, if I could talk to my 15-year-old self, I would say save money to buy high quality tools. Not that I would generally listen to myself always. For example, I made a few videos about this rotary tool that was very cheap. This is something that I use very infrequently, but when I need it, I need it. And the quality one, high quality one, cost about $200. This was just about $25, and with all the additions and fixes I did, it cost me about $30. There's a video on that, you can see. But it does the job, and based on our pays and living standard and prices, local everything, it's like half of my monthly pay to buy the more expensive tools, so I cannot justify that to myself. But if I used it very often, I would invest in a higher quality tool, and that is what I really think is the best policy, even if I don't always follow it. So you can call me hypocritical or something. But I think I've covered most of the basics. If I think of anything, or if you have any tools that you think are left out in this video, if injustice was done to any tools, please put a comment so we can make a list of more comprehensive. But this is my take on starting toolkit for bicycles. I know that I have missed a lot of tools, but in my opinion, this is the set that is most often used in my experience. So I would be lying if I put out some other tools that I don't really use very often. I didn't even touch on headset replacement tools and anything like that, but it's my logic that you replace headsets maybe once in a few years time if you ride a lot in the rain or anything, and it makes sense to have a bicycle shop maybe do that job, because in terms of money those tools will not pay off if you only fix your own bicycle. In terms of doing a proper job and doing everything yourself, I'm all for it, but I had to make some sort of cut, because otherwise I would just show all the possible bicycle tools in this video and say, okay, you can just get that for start. But that would not be a very sensible thing to do. So thank you very much for your patience. Thank you very much if you sat through this video. I hope it helps you. I hope it gives you some ideas and way to figure things out for yourself. That is my main motive to how I at the age of 10 and 15 would like to get advice. So that's what I'm basically trying to do as best as I can. So again, thank you for watching and cheers. If you like this video, you can click on subscribe and choose this bell option, select all, so you get notified whenever I upload a new video.